Hello and welcome back to the property vlog. Something a bit different on this week's video. We got planning on one of our schemes down in Torquay Monday last week, so just almost 2 weeks ago now. And I wanted to do a video to sort of share some of our experience in the planning space, and also introduce one of my business partners in KHP, Phil, who is an architect and also handles a lot of our planning submissions, working with the relevant consultants. He's got a wealth of knowledge. He's been an architect for years, been a developer for years. So I thought it would be really good to get him on and provide a bit of context around the planning. You've seen the site. We're going to follow up with some video of the internals of the scheme, but I thought it'd be really good to get him on and share his some of his knowledge. So here is the interview that Phil and I did over Zoom, obviously, because lockdown. So enjoy. Hello, Phil.
Hi Mo, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you. Very good. So I just wanted to jump on a quick Zoom call so we can share with some of the followers that are following the property vlog. We've obviously just announced that we've got planning on one of our KHP schemes. So I wanted to just have a chat with you and sort of explain about how that planning process works and some of the top tips that we've got. But let's start with, obviously I've been all over the property vlog videos that we've done for KHP recently. So let's start with a little bit about you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm Philip Bailey. I'm an architect. I've been an architect for most of my working life, and I've been running my own practice in St Albans and then down in the southwest for about 25 plus years. I'm also a director of KHP, and I sort of tend to look after the early project setup, making sure that we get planning and working out how to actually manage those projects through, get the most out of them in terms of the development design.
Yeah, amazing. And pretty good track record at the moment, so it's all going well from a KHP.
100% so far. Yeah, there's always time for a failure.
No, that's fine. We can maintain that record. So as I mentioned, we've obviously just released the video. We have secured planning at our Trinity House site, which is down in Torquay. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of the site and that building?
Right, okay. The building came into formation around about 1850. It was a captain's house, and the captain actually was a nephew of the Bishop of Exeter.
Right.
Remained like that for a number of years while he had it, and then it's gone through various iterations. It's been a film studio. A number of the Tarzan films, silent movie ones, were filmed there. It's been an artist home. It's obviously had other private uses. And then in the sort of 60s, it ended up being a sort of a retirement home for electrical workers. And then it was taken over in the 90s by the local Torquay Council and became a home for young people who had learning difficulties, mental difficulties, and they extended it at that stage. And then in the early 2010s, thereabout, they sold it on to a care company, and that company then refurbished it again and ran it until 2017, where unfortunately they got a very bad Care and Quality Commission review, which meant that they couldn't then carry on, and it was empty from then until we purchased it and did what we're doing now.
Great. Okay. Yeah. Great bit of history on it. So what was the planning that we went in for from a KHP point of view?
Right. So having reviewed the scheme, the main part of the building actually used to be listed, and it was delisted by Torquay Council when they took it over, possibly so they could do more things to it than they would have done if it were listed. And it also had a link building and then a new build that was constructed in the mid-90s, which is a fairly boring sort of building, but linked to the existing, which no one really liked. And what we've done, having sort of looked at the planning history and all the other bits and pieces, and also considered it that the main house was a formerly listed building, and therefore obviously important to the heritage of the area. We divorced the two buildings, we removed the link, and then created 8 flats, quite large flats in the main house. And then we've been able to put in, with a small extension on it, 4 houses, terraced houses, in the annex building, and then done all the work around the ground to meet the requirements of the normal planning process that you'd expect.
Okay, great. What were the obviously it was a success, so we'll come on to sort of why it was a success. What were some of the challenges with the scheme?
We had a number of small nitty-gritty challenges with it, really. We knew from our planning advice that it was a compliant scheme, but the challenges came around things like transport. We had to make sure we had the right number of cars and cycles and all the rest of it in place, but it actually goes out onto a very narrow road, and people were getting quite concerned that we were increasing the amount of traffic that went onto the road. So we had to demonstrate through various processes that we weren't actually making it any worse. They were also very concerned about the entrance and making sure we could get the fire engine in. Well, the fire engine's been going there for 150 years. You'd think no one will worry about that, but they did.
Yeah.
So we had to prepare stuff for that. We really had to sort of push through on issues like that. So it's normal sort of stuff we would expect. It depends on the authority as to whether they are looking at it to play ball or looking for you to come up with all the answers. And eventually they approved it unanimously.
Yeah, and it went to planning committee, didn't it?
That's correct.
What was the reason for that?
Primarily, that's because it's what they call a major scheme, and a major scheme is when you're over 10 units. So that was part of the reason. Also, they did have one objection, and often when you find you get objections, the councillors want to just make sure that they've demonstrated that they've reviewed the scheme and then approved it. So that's why it ended up going to committee.
It was quite an interesting committee meeting. Obviously, they're all done on Zoom now, and it was a long meeting. It was quite interesting to watch, though, and I'd encourage anyone that's never either sat in a physical one or watched one on Zoom to try and get involved, because it's interesting to hear the arguments and the various planning policies, and there's loads of insight there. Obviously, I've got a lot.
There is lots of insight if you do that with also the officers' reports that go on. You can learn a lot about how they operate, and you can see how challenging the councillors are to the officers. So the officers have got to make sure they're following proper planning policy, and they're not causing them not tying themselves up in knots.
Yeah. So ultimately, why do you think the scheme was a success from a planning point of view?
Well, as I said, we although I'm an architect and I understand a reasonable amount about the planning side of it, I'm not a specialist planning advisor. So on any large scheme these days, we will get a planning advisor involved who really understands the policies, how the councillors and their officials will actually interpret those policies, because they are still open to interpretation, and then we can make a decision from them. So we can take some of their advice. Don't necessarily have to follow all of it, but it's certainly useful to understand it, to make sure that you brief them properly so that they understand what you're trying to achieve, and then work with them to develop a good planning statement, get all the specialist reports that are needed, and that varies, but they are all listed on the council website as to what needs to be done. Some are national, some are local. Get all those in place, make sure they all align with what you're saying and what the scheme that you're putting together, and then it should go through, providing everyone's in agreement with that on our side, if you like. Then it gives the council and their officials very little room to actually argue. They may come back with nitty-gritty points, but if you've got a good team that you've built around you, that they shouldn't be too difficult to answer.
So I was going to ask you what your top tips are in terms of developers that are looking to take schemes through planning, but I presume from that it's that sort of power team in terms of consultants and planning advisors.
Yeah, it is, but also remember, it's your scheme. You've got to pick and choose their advice, because they will tell you what they think they can do. They can give you the downsides in some instances of but you've got to ultimately take the judgment on board as to where you want to take it. You've got to keep your developer hat on and not get pushed around too much by them. And I'd certainly recommend that if you use the local planning officers, you do so with good knowledge of what it is you can and can't do, because they're not there really these days to help you. They're there to administer a process, to check that what's being presented is compliant with their policies. They're not actually there to advise you or provide really good quality advice these days.
So in I'm going to say the olden days, in inverted commas, it used to be more, they were sort of more proactive in terms of helping you and telling you what you needed to do to get something through. Is that right? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Back in the day.
Well, things always change. You just have to go with
adapt.
The flow.
Adapt
and move forward.
And what do you think are what do you think are some things for people to avoid in terms of developers taking schemes through planning?
As I said, the council do offer a pre-application route to actually flesh out some of the issues. And it's just a question of knowing when and when not to use that service. That's why I thoroughly recommend that you have a good, strong planning advisor. Architects often think that they can do it, and they can on very simple schemes, but once it gets a little bit more complicated, then realistically, that you're wasting your time if you just listen to one consultant. You've got to go to all of them, and that's particularly key on architects. They're not developers generally, although obviously I work now as a developer, but often they're not developers. They're architects. They want to create nice spaces. Nice buildings don't necessarily equate with good profit.
Absolutely.
So you need to use your consultants well, listen to what they're saying, but remember, you're in control. Don't dictate to them, but make sure you've taken on board what they've said and work with them to get to the scheme that you need to get to that actually makes the numbers work for you.
Amazing. That's really good advice. Well, thank you so much, Phil, for taking some time. Obviously, it would have been great to do it face to face, but at the moment, all our meetings are on Zoom. So gives a really good overview, I think, for people that have sort of been following the scheme and have seen some of the drone footage, and we're going to get some internal shots as well to put on the property vlog. If people want more information or want to have a chat with you, virtual coffee or a real coffee down the line, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Probably email phil@khpgroup.co.uk would probably be the easiest way, I would suggest.
Great. Yeah, fantastic. Cool.
I'm on social media, but
you're active on social media. It's very good.
I do a little bit of LinkedIn and help you out on Facebook as well.
I'll link all your profiles up in the video as well. So brilliant. Thanks so much for your time, Phil, and speak to you soon.
Okay, great. Thanks for talking.
Okay, so hope you enjoyed that interview with Phil that we did over Zoom. Loads and loads of knowledge, like really experienced chap, and like pleasure to be in business with Phil. If you've got any questions, Phil gave his details there, or drop me an email. It's morat at khpgroup.co.uk, or send me a DM on social media, or put a comment in the YouTube comments box. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want to see more videos like that, please let me know, and we'll sort of mix in some stuff like that with going around some of our sites as well. So see you next time.